All right, man, peace. So, the former Surgeon General of the United States of America, Vivek Murthy, he made an appearance on the CBS Morning News to speak on a very important topic that is very pervasive in America today, and that is loneliness. They're going to interview him, and of course, I'm going to chime in.
Former Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy tackled a range of public health crises. They included issues like Zika, drug and alcohol addiction.
Not to digress, but just to chime in very quickly, the Zika virus is a virus that was created for population control. That was part of what was known as MK Naomi, I believe it was. I believe it was MK Naomi.
And obesity. But he also shed light on a silent crisis.
I'll probably do a video on that in the near future. Maybe I'll do that with AIDS and some of the other ones. Who knows?
The rising number of lonely people in America. He spoke about his concern at the Aspen Ideas Festival last year.
Notice she said the rising number of lonely people in America. Brothers, I've said this I've said this numerous times in many videos, particularly in the ones relating to relationships. Many of these people in this society, particularly the liberal women, are lonely. They do what they do because of loneliness. It is part of their psychological issues that they have. It's part of the psychological issues that they have. It is very pervasive in this society. A lot of these females do not know how to dwell with a man. They have alienated men against them, or from them, I should say. And a lot of them are suffering the consequences of those issues right now.
Many people I have met have thousands of friends on Facebook, but find few people who really know them.
Yes, they're called liberal women. Made me laugh when I'm on Facebook. You go around Facebook and you see these people, they got 9,000 online friends. But you get to know them in real life and they're borderline suicidal.
As a society, we have built stronger Wi-Fi connections over time, but our personal connections have deteriorated.
Well, the reason why the personal connections in this society have deteriorated, and they have deteriorated at a very rapid rate, is because of the deculturalization of America, meaning they have totally desensitized people to caring about anyone other than themselves because of the implementation of the Aleister Crowley philosophy of Thelema, do what thou wilt. Do whatever you feel. You don't owe anyone other than yourself happiness. Once you make a commitment, it doesn't matter if you break the commitment because everything is all about you. I've said this before in one of these videos that I did about quote unquote relationships. Relationships are very simple. They're not easy, but they're simple. When people try to make things complex that are normally simple or meant to be simple, that is a sign of somebody that is suffering from some form of mental psychosis or baggage or, demonic possession, to be quite frank with you.
Now in a Harvard Business Review article, Murthy writes, loneliness is a growing health epidemic. He calls on companies to make fostering social connections a strategic priority.
Once again, this person is trying to call on the corporations, which are the new churches in America, because the jobs of most of these people is their religion, because they think that money is going to save them. They believe that money is their salvation. He's calling on the corporations to assist the citizens of America with their growing mental health problems. And many of these people definitely have mental health issues.
Dr. Vivek Murthy joins us back at the table. It's good to see you again.
Thanks, great to be here.
Now, this is a topic that you say that you know personally about. You said that you were a shy, lonely kid, that people didn't even know that about you.
I don't know how they didn't know that. I mean, you look like the life of the party. I'm surprised that anybody, didn't know that you had a shyness problem. I mean, you look like you just set it off as soon as you step in the room.
That's true. In fact, it's something I've never even talked to my own family about. But when I was a child, I was very shy. It was hard for me to make friends, and I felt lonely a lot. Mm-hmm. But I felt ashamed to tell that to people.
Why the shame? Yeah.
Well, for many people and for myself, when I was a child, admitting that you're lonely is essentially equivalent to admitting that you're not worthy of being loved.
Well, that may be part of it for certain people who feel that way. I think that the main problem with many lonely people is that they have a hard time admitting that oftentimes they're probably too self-centered. Many people don't know why they're constantly driving people away from them. The reason why you're constantly driving people away from you is because you think that everything's all about you. And that is really the source of many of the mental health problems that so many people in America, particularly liberal females, have. I mentioned this previously. Many of these young females from the ages of 18 to 30, they're on prescription drugs. They're on antidepressants because they are suffering from depression due to loneliness. Why is that? Because the doctrine or the ideology of feminism has put so much pressure on these females to be successful in different venues of life that they really should not have to be concerned with. A woman, before the feminist movement was concerned with pleasing her husband and raising her children. These modern day females today are concerned with rising up the corporate ladder, accumulating degrees so that they can brag about them to others, finding Mr. Right, quote unquote, getting the right house with the right cars and having the right number of children, having an extravagant wedding, being able to prove to her mother that she was a success, because so many of these women have issues with their mothers. It's really just a really problematic situation dealing with most of these modern liberal females because they create problems where there should not be any. And a lot of males in the society who embrace liberalism, they also have a lot of these same issues because they conform to fictitious standards of propriety and success. So that's what leads to loneliness. People are really not being happy with who they are, and not really understanding what's important.
That's really what underlies this stigma around loneliness.
So why is loneliness now an epidemic?
Look, he's not going to say it, but I'm going to say it. Feminism. That's why it's an epidemic.
Well, we are recognizing that loneliness is a lot more prevalent than we thought it was. But the data is also showing that there are more adults who admit to being lonely now than just 2 decades ago.
Right, but you're not answering her question. She said, why? She didn't ask for stats. Why? The reason why loneliness is an epidemic today is once again because of feminism. Feminism has made the female believe that the man is her enemy, that he is her competition, as opposed to being her complement. The man and the woman no longer fit together like a key and a lock, or like the yin and the yang. Now they're both competing for the same positions, for the same roles. Now the man is told to embrace his feminine side. The female is told that she should be trying to overpower, overcome, overtake the man. This leads to constant contention by both parties. It leads to a separation, and leads to two people being by themselves who normally in a functional society would be together.
And there are several possible reasons for this. Number one, people are more mobile now than they ever have been. People move away from their communities and their home. There are record numbers of people who are actually living alone. But we also know that technology has had a potential role here. Technology can help or hurt. It's simply a tool. But for too many people, technology has led to substituting online connections for offline in-person connections.
That's definitely true. People are more interested in online communication. Why is that? Because you can end it whenever you want without having to deal with the emotional backlash or the emotional carryover of having to deal with somebody who's out of control. But also, the introduction of the smartphone, the cell phone, has totally changed intergender dynamics. Now you get to know a female over text. Now a broad sends you a picture. The first picture she sends you is of her smiling. Then she sends you a stupid ass Snapchat picture with her with a fake crown on and blue eyes. And then the next thing you know, she's sending you shots of her titties and of a vagina. All right. Beyond that, with the cell phone now, the smartphone, it allows both parties to deal with multiple partners in a much more subtle manner and subtle manner to hide what they're doing until they feel like they can weed out who the person is that they want to spend the quote unquote rest of their life with, which definitely is in quotes. or to just figure out who they want to weed out, or just have fun with a bunch of people. It was much more difficult to philander before the cell phone. It was much more difficult to develop relations with people before the cell phone because it took more time. You had to actually go out with people. Now you can get to know people remotely.
And ultimately, I think that has been harmful.
Looking at your phone instead of talking to someone.
Exactly. Or
Yeah, I say that all the time. A bitch looking at her phone, I'm talking to her. She can kick rocks. Have a nice day. I ain't got no time for that silly shit.
Spending time on Facebook or on other social media thinking that is equivalent to sitting down and seeing a friend and talking to them face to face.
Well, a lot of these people can't make friends anymore because they don't have anything in common with people other than self-aggrandizement. Everybody wants to show who can take the better selfie, particularly these females. Okay? In any functional society, once again, the female has to be moderated. She must be moderated. Because the woman is the one who's going to bring stability to the children in the home. She's going to maintain the home, and she's also as heavily involved in maintaining the happiness of the man. Now, when these things are no longer operational, there's a trickle down effect. Once again, brothers, the woman is an agent of chaos. If she has too many options, she is going to choose chaos. Bottom line. So, with the introduction of the cell phone, that has given the female basically a master key to promote and propagate discordianism in her own life and in everybody else's life. But the woman is too proud to admit certain things. And once again, when they say the reason why I'm concentrating on a certain faction, that being the liberal woman, is because when they say that there is a U.S. loneliness epidemic, they're talking about these women, but they just can't say it. They're not talking about most of these men. Are there lonely men out there? I'm sure that there are. But they're predominantly talking about the woman. Because for the most part, the man could sit at home, with a pair of tube socks on and watch the game and chill. It's most of these women that's sitting at home just bugged out of their mind trying to figure out how come they can't get a man and how come they're not loved and all this other shit. And get it, and go to work and all that energy comes out.
Is it more common in men than women?
Now, why did she just say that? Why did she just say that? Because maybe she read a part in the report where it's trying to imply that, but we know that that's not true.
Well, the data is interesting on that, but we have reason to believe that men may be more at risk in some ways for loneliness, and some of this has to do with our culture around masculinity. Mm-hmm. We think that masculinity is.
Now, pay very close attention. She asked if it was more common in men than women, but when they show the graphic, what do they show? They show an older black woman. I wonder why.
Is tied to being self-sufficient and not expressing your emotions and certainly not admitting to feelings of loneliness. But many men.
And look at this. Look at the age that they put on there. Let me rewind it back a little bit.
Men.
Once again, 45. What I tell y'all brothers, man. The woman does not start to mature until she hits 45. All right? They already know this. They know this already. She doesn't reach maturity until the age of 60. That's when she starts to really, truly understand that life is not just about her. Okay? From the age of 15 to 45, the woman thinks that everything is about her, unless she has children, and then the maternal DNA gets activated. And that's in this day and age, that's only in certain women. A lot of females still think that everything is about them, even when they have children.
Not admitting.
But once again, look at that magic number, 45. I told ya.
To feelings of loneliness. But many men do feel lonely, especially after they get married or have children where their social circles narrow.
Now notice, he said that the man feels lonely when he's married. Because he said that the man's social circles are starting to decline or shrink. The woman feels loneliness because she can't get a man. The man gets lonely when he's with the woman. Ain't that some shit?
Women are much better at keeping their connections in life than men are.
Doctor, I think...
Yeah, allegedly. But we all know that he has to promote the pro-woman angle. Because if he states the opposite, then he's going to get lambasted.
I think the interesting point you make, too, though, is the connection between loneliness and our health. and real health issues that occur as a result of it.
This is one of the reasons that loneliness is getting more attention, because we are learning more and more about the impact on health. It turns out that loneliness is associated with a reduction in your lifespan that is as severe as the reduction in lifespan that you see with smoking, 15 cigarettes a day. It's greater than the impact on mortality of obesity.
Well, I can understand that. I mean, I'm sure that there is a link between loneliness and a lack of a will to live. I believe that the connections that you have here on the earth, particularly after a certain age, they help to reinforce your need to remain here on the earth. You know, after a certain age, it's mostly about how much you want to be here.
And part of this is because that loneliness actually places us in a stress state. We evolved to be social creatures, and thousands of years ago, if you were connected to other people, you were more likely to have a stable food supply.
All that is true, and you know, we were created to be communal, and the basis of any real community is a strong culture built in the male-female bond. He's not touching on that. I don't understand how you can not touch on the relationship aspect if you're talking about loneliness. The reason why loneliness is an epidemic is because they have deculturalized America and they have alienated the male and female genders from each other. It's not that difficult to figure out. They don't want to say it, though, because then you'll have to start pinpointing the female empowerment movements.
And to be protected from predators. So when you're disconnected, you're in a stress state. When that happens chronically, it can have a profound impact on your health.
Do companies and business, I mean, is it worth building in more time for folks to get together? Like CBS News has a walking club right now, and it used to be like coffee breaks, right, that people would take, or even happy hours, you know. You
could look at this guy. If this guy's married, he's scared of his wife. That guy just got a real subservient countenance about him. Talking about a damn walking club. Get the fuck out of here. You and your woman should walk to the bedroom.
Everyone gets together. Do you think more of those times need to get built in?
Well, I think the quality of time that people have together is what matters.
And just listen to what the Caucasian newscaster stated. He wants to know if there should be more time built into workplace functions like a walking club. Once again, in this current society, they view your job as your programming center. They want that to be your be all and end all. They don't want you to have an individual identity. All right? They want you to feel more at home at work than you do at home. They want you to totally disavow any affinity for an actual personal life and family life. Okay? The man in current America is viewed only as a sperm donor. That's all that the so-called liberal female really wants you for, is for your sperm, for the most part. Are there good women out there? Sure there are. Just like there are needles in haystacks. They are hard to find, but they're out there. Okay? But the fact of the matter is that the first thing that the Caucasian male newscaster went to in regards to curing the loneliness epidemic is to implement a program in the workplace. The only cure for the loneliness epidemic is going to be the reintegration, or the re-implementation, I should say, of an actual family structure, which is not going to happen here in this society. They don't want you to have a family life because they want your God to be the government, the state. Okay? They want the God of your child to be the school system. They want your child to learn more at school than they do from you. Right? Like, I remember there was a brother who made a comment on one of these videos a long time ago. He said, you talking all that history stuff, but there's kids in Camden and Oakland that don't even know how to read. I'm like, what is this dude talking about, man? My parents taught me how to read, dude. It's your job as a parent to teach your child. Right? When you send them to school, that's just for them to learn additional stuff, to prepare them for life after school. And really, if you can, you should homeschool your child if you can. Everybody can't do that, but if you can, you should homeschool them. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't have much to teach their child. But one of the first things that you should be teaching your child, if they're 2 or 3 years old, is letters and numbers and how to read. All right? My mother and father taught me how to read. When I went to school, I already knew how to read. So, when I saw that comment, I was like, this is another dude who's waiting for the government, for the Caucasian man to save him.
Giving people time to get together during happy hours, that can help to some extent. But sometimes people feel that they're just taking time away from family, or they're taking time away from the work they do. And what do they end up doing? Often talking about work.
Thank you, sir. Look, there has to be a serious demarcation between home life and work life. It's very dangerous today, the corporate structure, the corporate paradigm that they're trying to create and enforce and make people accept, which is your life is work. You only go home to get a break so that you can come back to work. That's not what life is supposed to be about.
Yeah. That's what they have in common. Yeah. Instead, providing dedicated time in structured settings for people to truly get to know and understand each other. What are their values? What drives people? What are their experiences and inspirations? And what are their lives outside of work? People hunger to be known authentically.
I don't know about that. I think that people hunger, when they're in the workforce or in the workplace, they hunger to get paid. I think that people who come to work trying to share their personal life is normally due to a dearth of any form of personal life outside of work. You can, I've always stated this, you can tell the people who don't have much going on outside of work because they come into the workplace acting like the workplace is a dating center, a psychiatrist chair, all those type of things. They come and tell you all their personal business. They in the workforce, they're in the workplace trying to fuck every damn body. All right. And who do you see that from the most? The liberal female. All right. Particularly the liberal black woman. That's who you really see that from the most. But, all these problems stem from the fact that the rapport between the male and the female in this society has totally been broken down.
And far too many people feel invisible right now. And that is at the crux of our loneliness.
I think it would be hard for anybody, especially an adult, male or female, to admit I'm lonely. And what are you supposed to do with that if you're feeling that way?
Just do what you do, Gail. Just join a dating website for old people and, become a Saturday night special.
Well, it's a great question. So number one is to recognize that if you are feeling lonely, you are not the only one. There are many people out there who are feeling lonely. Number two, if you're feeling lonely, that it does not mean that there's something fundamentally wrong with you and that you're not worthy of friendship or being loved. And finally, if you are not feeling lonely, it's important to recognize there very likely are people around you who are.
Well, let me say this. He said that if you're feeling lonely, it's not necessarily because something's wrong with you. Well, sometimes something is wrong with you. Okay? When he says those type of things, that feeds into the self-aggrandizement mentality that so many people have. If you're constantly running into the same issues in your interpersonal relationships, the only X factor is you. So sometimes you got to humble yourself and figure out what it is that you're doing wrong. Do you have silly or erroneous expectations for others or for yourself where you're constantly driving people away? Oftentimes you have people who find the negative in the positive, right? Those type of people, you have to understand how to omit those people from your life. It's very important. It's one of the most important things, man. So many brothers put themselves through all these ridiculous situations in life because they don't know when it's time to make somebody exit their life. That's why there's a saying that all the world is a stage and everyone here is merely a player in that play. And, just like in a play, you have to know when it is time to make somebody exit stage left. Everybody has an entrance scene and an exit scene. And you have to know when it's time to write somebody out of that play. Just like you have to know when and how to keep the most important actors or players in that play because they're bringing something that cannot be replaced. We all run into people in life that are great people or good people, and you have to do right by them. The same way you run into people who are a piece of shit, and you got to get them out of your life as soon as possible, because if not, they'll ruin the whole stage performance if you let them. It's like that line in The Dark Knight. Some people just want to see the world burn. Some people are so miserable, the only thrill that they get out of life is trying to see how many other people's lives they can ruin with their love of entropy.
And that's why it's so important for us to reach out to them. The fundamental thing is this. We have for years thought about ourselves as an individualistic society that champions individual achievement. But what the data around loneliness tells us now more and more is that we are truly interdependent creatures.
No shit. Anybody could tell that. But when you live in a society that's based on telima and the embracing of every one of your whims and lusts cavalierly, of course, the overall end game or the overall result is going to be people having mental and emotional breakdowns because they're not getting the essential satisfaction that they're supposed to get from a community, which is, here's my wife, here are my children, here are my neighbors. I trust them and they trust me. This is why the Most High gave Israel the 10 Commandments and then the laws, right? Those are the things that made our people upright. Those are the things that gave us stability and a backbone and codified the difference between right and wrong. To say this is wrong and here's why it's wrong. For you to covet this or to take that or to kill this person without a cause. Right? These are things that you have in a real society. Here, where everything is just first come, first serve, do whatever you want. Of course, it's going to lead to a degradation of overall morale.
And then ultimately, we need each other.
I love this message. I think it's
too.
great. I think it's really good.
Dr. Murphy, thank you so much.
But anyway, I just wanted to touch on that because loneliness is definitely a very huge issue in this society. There's no doubt about that. If you're here in New York and your everyday comings and goings, you could look into the faces of many of these people and you could tell that they're woefully dissatisfied with their life. It doesn't matter if they have on a 3-piece suit or if they just have on sweats. You can look at them and see it. Because people don't have real families to go to anymore, to turn to for support and succor. Everything now is just wham, bam, thank you, and now going about your way. People don't know how to work things out. They don't know how to talk things out. They don't know what real bonds are made of anymore. They don't know why they're with someone anymore because there's no real culture. So there's no real reason for people to be with anyone for the long term anymore. It's just, I don't like that person anymore, so I'm moving on, right? And that's why it seems like most of these relationships have a shelf life when they're really not supposed to. But anyway, peace.